property.
It's so divinely synchronized.
Yes. Yeah. It's when she found the place, they had a sign up. We kept driving by it, and we never stopped because it looks really small. Because it's built into a hill, so there's another.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's not very big, but it's a duplex. But we've got all our own space. I keep talking like she's here. She's come back to Australia.
She's there in spirit.
Yeah, but yeah. So when she knocked on the door, the lady said, "Hi, my name is Morgan Lee." She goes, "My name's Morgan Lee."
What?
So that was it. So then the owner was in the kitchen doing some work, and he just looked up and goes, "You got it. If it's yours, if you want it, it's yours."
Wow.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Finally guided.
Yeah.
Magic.
And they recognized it.
That's so cool.
So, all right, we got 19 people in the house. It's 2 minutes into it. I think we can go ahead and get started. We got a beautiful sister here with us, a new friend. This is typical Solargy style. We just get to know each other right in front of everybody. You answered, first of all, welcome. Let me just formally welcome you.
Hi, everybody.
And so I believe were you one of them that answered?
Yes, I reached out to Morgan. So I've been following both of you for years.
Really?
And you first, then Morgan, then both of you. And I reached out to her posts. Many of her posts I really resonate with. And I love when that happens because initially when you experience something, especially as a woman, you feel insane. And then other people, that's why it's so important to share. And that's why I felt very compelled to come out of my long hermit mode to share my story to hopefully help others that have suffered the same, or maybe not the same, but then they can look at their situation and see, wow, my life isn't so bad, because it really helped me. As horrible as it was, it really helped me to appreciate and put everything into perspective now. And I feel like that is so paramount and important in the climate that we're in, energetically, spiritually, politically, everything. And it gives you really good perspective of like, okay, is it really the end of the world? Because I do feel, especially in America, we're kind of drowning in privilege and we forget how lucky we are. And so
it's true. What is it? 1 in 8 children won't have a meal today. Something like that.
Right. And I mean, it's horrible atrocities are happening right under our nose. Nobody knows because nobody knew anything of mine and of what I endured and survived. And so I'll start with the beginning. Even though I was born in Texas, I grew up in Chicago. So I'm from Chicago. And my father is an immigrant. He's from Mexico. And he was a raging, abusive alcoholic, very narcissistic, very controlling, wouldn't let us have any friends, wouldn't let my mom have any friends. And like, that's what abusive men do, or abusive people. I can't blame it on men. Abusive people try to keep you in a little bubble so that, number one, nobody will find out. And like, they have this really charming persona image, like a politician to uphold, because everybody loved my dad. I mean, he was very handsome. He was very popular, and everybody thought, oh, you're so lucky. But he was sexually abusing me and my sisters at home. And my mom, she never out and out said it, but she knew, and she didn't intervene. And there's 4 of us. I'm the oldest. So I had an extremely abusive upbringing. So my mom didn't sexually abuse, but she didn't intervene. And I'm Mexican American, so I don't know if it's the culture, but I think she thought, okay, so, he doesn't beat me, and like, trying to make excuses for not leaving. And so we were very abused. It was mental abuse, sexual abuse, every night, every kind of abuse. I feel like I got my PhD in abuse. And, you can't speak, you can't say anything. There's a lot of shame that comes with that. But one interesting thing, it feels kind of like the X-Men. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The X-Men, but like they mutated and evolved their abilities, evolved into this hybrid being because of their circumstances. And that's what happened to me. In order to survive my circumstances, my parents, I developed these psychic abilities really fast. And I mean, I was a little kid, the oldest, so I'm really alone. I can't talk to babies. So I'm alone enduring this, and I'm the first one. So I get the youngest version of my dad. I get the youngest version of my mom at full force. And, my mom was miserable in her marriage. And at the time when I was a child, I didn't know that I was psychic, because you just think, well, everybody's like this. So I could read thoughts, I can read emotions, and but I don't know some things because I'm a kid. So like I'm getting this information and I'm so confused because I don't understand. So now in hindsight, looking back, I was reading my mom's thoughts and her emotions, but she was looking at me like I'm the other woman. And now I see it because I'm an adult, but as a child, I didn't understand. I'm like, what do you mean? I just want you to love me. And it was like a competition with her because I had all my dad's attention. And so she would take it out on me physically and beat me because she hated her life and she didn't have the guts to leave. So it's like double whammy, getting it from the dad, getting it from the mom, nobody to tell. And then, oh, but you're so lucky. Your dresses are so pretty. You look so pretty. Your house is so nice. And like you have two parents, you're so lucky because, there's a lot of kids that don't have parents. And, well, am I? Because I have the illusion of parents. I have the illusion, the facade of the American dream, but it's Amityville horror inside, going home. So I felt like it was boot camp for my psychic training. And like I was born to these demonic parents because I had to see how they operate, how they move, how they speak, just everything, how they think. And it really did help me. But I was psychically and physically attacked, not only from the parents, but from the demons that controlled them. I could see them. And at night, I was tortured all night. I was tortured in my sleep. When I was asleep, I was tortured, like getting up in the middle of the night. I remember being like 2 and 3 and getting up to go to the bathroom. And the demons were waiting for me. They were in the living room and they're like, come on. And so I said, I'm not going over there. So I wouldn't go because I could see them. And I would try to tell my parents and they would spank me. And the demons loved it. Like they just really loved chaos. And I believe my dad brought it in not only with the sexual abuse, but with the drinking, all that drinking and violence. It created that breeding ground for all that crap. And I mean, they just had a party there. And then he moved on to my sisters, doing the same thing to them. So from birth to 9, everything, I mean, yes, I was being abused. Yes, my mom was physically abusing me, verbally, emotionally, you name it. But I had a childhood, so to speak. I got to play. I didn't have any responsibilities. It was just me and my sister. And my mom finally decides to divorce my dad. And she's going to serve him with divorce papers. She has him served at work. We're going to leave. And I hear her speaking. And also I can read her thoughts. So I know we're leaving, or we're going to leave this house now. And I'm really happy. We're going to leave. And she finds out she's pregnant with twins. And now she's like, oh, crap, I can't leave. I'm going to have 4 kids. Nobody's going to want me with 4 kids. Where am I going to go with 4 kids? I have to stay with him. Of course, my dad didn't let her get a job because he was very controlling. He didn't want anybody to find out what was happening. So she stays. She has the twins, and she goes completely catatonic for a year. No talking. She loses like a bunch of weight, and she's just a total zombie. I'm 9 years old, and I remember my dad, super drunk, coming to me and my little sister. My sister was 2 years younger than me. She was 7. And he says, Mommy's really sick, and I need you to help me with the babies. And so I became a mother at 9 years old, and so did my sister. And I was like his wife. I had to cook. I had to clean. I had to wash clothes because he didn't know how to do anything because my mom served him hand and foot. and we didn't know how to do anything because we were kids and we never had chores. We didn't have anything. So I was expected to, come on, you know, you got to deliver. Mommy's sick, so now it's on you. You're the oldest. And I remember having a twin, a little baby, and it was my baby. I'm in charge of this baby. You're in charge of that baby. And I mean, he would help my sister because she was smaller, but he wouldn't help me. It's like, you're older, you're smart, you can figure it out. And I mean, talk about sink or swim, like, you better deliver. And I would screw up the dishes, I would screw up the laundry, the meals, just everything. And then so he took over the cooking because I couldn't reach, but I still had to do everything else. And that was like, oh my goodness, heavy duty. Like, that was worse than the abuse. I'd rather get abused because the abuse, you get spanked, it's over, and you can go play. But this didn't stop. It was on top of all the other crap. It was like another layer. So then my first suicide attempt was at 12. So I remember it was summertime in Chicago. We were about to get out of school. It was the last week of school. And my cousin gives me, do you remember those 900 numbers where you could call? Like, they were new. Like, you could call and they were paid. You had to pay.
Yeah, they charged your phone bill
by the minute. Yeah. Right. Well, I didn't know that. I was 12. And my cousin's like, call this number. And it was a sex hotline. All it was a woman moaning. That's all it was. And we thought it was the funniest thing. And I had the great idea to tell everybody in the neighborhood, hey, come over my house. My dad's at work. Come over my house and let's call this number and let's listen to it. And we would laugh about it. So all these kids were just coming in my house from the neighborhood. And I racked up quite the phone bill. But my mom didn't know because my dad would often call Mexico, his relatives, and it's really expensive back then. Well, I don't know how it is now, but back then it was really expensive to call. So she assumed the $500 phone bill was from my dad calling Mexico. So she didn't even think anything. Well, that was probably with the regular phone bill plus whatever the hell I did. And my aunt, one night, the night that changed my life, she calls my mom. It's her sister, and she says, Tina's saying that Sylvia gave her this number. She flipped on me and said that I gave her the number, even though she gave me the number. And she says, yeah, and this is the number, and basically went off on my mom saying that I'm corrupting my cousin when it was the other way around, but my mom didn't believe me. So I got spanked, and she said, wait till your dad gets home. I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you do on a regular basis to me? What are you going to do now? So to me, I'm like, no big deal. I get spanked anyway, like, whatever. But then my dad comes home and he was livid. I think it caused a lot of shame in him and guilt and things that he didn't want to look at about himself, because now I'm 12, but I'm being sexualized somehow on my own, of my own choosing. And he couldn't handle that. So that kind of broke his brain. And he beat the crap out of me after my mom had. And they basically threw me away. I was locked in an attic for months. And like, it was hot. In Chicago, back then in the 80s, you don't really invest in like AC. You invest more in the heating unit because it's so freaking cold. And so like AC, no, you just open a window, you take a shower, you use the fan. So in that attic was boiling hot, and I was stuck up there. And like my sister would have to bring me my meals because he says, I'm really ashamed of you and I can't look at you. But he wouldn't tell me what I did. I didn't know what sex was. He wouldn't tell me why he was angry. He would just shame and guilt constantly throwing it at me. And I'm like trying to understand, like, what are you talking about? I don't even, and I wanted to say, what about what you do to me? Like, I don't think that's okay because that's not, you know what I mean? And like, he wouldn't address any of that. It was just disgust. And my 12-year-old brain couldn't understand what's happening. And like, why is mom mad? Why is dad mad? And like the only good thing is I didn't have to do any chores. So I was in the attic for months, looking down a tiny window at all my friends during the summer, playing and like trying to figure out what did I do, because I didn't understand. So I remember being so pissed at God because ever since I was really little, I talked to God. And it was weird because I could see the demons and everything, and I was scared of them, but I always had my connection to God. So I knew I was okay, even though it was really scary. I always felt like a deep connection to God. And I was forced to go to catechism. I remember having like arguments, not arguments, but like trying to understand with the catechism teacher of like, well, why this? And why do I have to be in a building? God's everywhere. I don't understand. Like, that's not true. And like fighting with her about the truth. And I would get spanked at home because don't question, authority. Just shut up and like go along, eat your cookies, read the Bible and shut up. So in the attic, I remember being super angry at God and thinking, you abandoned me and I quit. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, these people are horrible. You're not protecting me. What the hell? I'm out. And I killed myself. I took a giant, huge. This was before Costco. And it was like 1,000 count. It was Tylenol because my dad had arthritis and he had carpal tunnel from working in factories. That amount of ibuprofen or acetaminophen, because that's what Tylenol is, that will fuck you up because your liver and like I guess my age helped me too.
How many did you
1,000. 1,000.
1,000?
Like, it was a giant, huge container and I was tiny. God. And so I remember feeling really sick from all the pills, but I was angry. I'm like, no, I'm leaving. And like, some people
but you're 12 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And you knew that you could take yourself out that way.
Yeah, I don't know how I knew that. I don't know how I got the idea because there was no internet. I didn't know anybody that had died. I didn't know. So some part of me, I've always felt like I'm 100 years old. So some part of me knew. And I think I aborted the mission and said, screw this, I'm out of here. And so I took the pills and I remember being really sick, but being like really committed and determined. And like when somebody wants to kill themselves, they don't talk about it. Like if they're for real, they're not going to talk about it because it requires like next level courage and strength to like do it. Because you got to be a real G to do it because it's scary. And so I took the pills and I thought, oh, okay, finally I'm free. I don't have to be here. It's done. And all it did was knock me out. I fell asleep like all day, all night. I was just asleep. And then I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what time it was. I wake up the next day and I'm so beyond furious because I'm awake, I'm alive. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I here? I remember being so angry because I wasn't allowed to die. And I was like livid. And I remember like it was like I was having a battle with God. I was fighting, I was screaming. I'm like, no, you can't make me stay here. I don't want to stay here. And so that day, I didn't know, my mom decides to let me out. And my dad was at work. It was summertime. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get let out. So like, I didn't die, but I'm going to leave. And so I come to find out it's my birthday. And I turned 13, the goddess number. So I think she felt guilty and she let me out. And she told me, take a shower, get dressed, go to the neighbor's house and translate. So we lived in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood in Chicago, and I had to go translate. And I go to the neighbor's house, and I fall 30 feet, and I die. I went up the stairs, and I go and sit on the banister, and the banister was broken. And I love sitting on banisters, and I wasn't afraid of heights or anything. But I go sit there, and just like that, boom, I fall, I die. I'm bleeding from my nose, my ears, my mouth, just everywhere. And my mom has to call the ambulance, and I go to the hospital, and I have 6-hour brain surgery because I had a subdural hematoma. So I'm dead. They pronounce me dead. They're trying to revive me in the ambulance. They're reviving me at the hospital, and then they're trying to save me at the hospital. And I remember family flew in from everywhere because my mom's telling them Sylvia died. And so they're all coming in to be with me or to say goodbye and like to be with my mom. And I'm having the surgery and I come back, but I don't come back normal. I mean, I come back and with nothing wrong. And that is super unheard of, to fall on your head on cement from 30 feet, a high-rise apartment building, and then live, much less. Nothing is wrong. Like, they did all this rehab, and I remember they were like showing me like really ridiculous things, and I remember being really annoyed because they're like, do you know what shape this is? Do you know what your name is? Do you know where you live? And I remember being, Chicago, my name's Sylvia, like, leave me alone. But they were just so, I was like a science experiment because they had never witnessed that. And so the neurosurgeon said, you're my miracle because I've done this surgery and nobody survives. And the one man, a 32-year-old man, the week before, had the same surgery as me. He lived, walked out, got hit by a bus in front of the hospital. And so I was the only survivor. And so, like, it was a miracle on so many levels.
Did you tell that's a miracle, but taking 1,000 Tylenols is a miracle. Because there's no damage. Because I had a family member take about 75, 80 Tylenol PMs, and that's only a tenth of what you took, and right away it was there'll be irreversible liver damage. That's a very minor comparison.
Nothing happened to me. Yeah,
that's
nothing.
Crazy.
They did all kinds of tests on me.
Well, you're obviously very special, and you weren't supposed to leave.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to leave.
Keep going, because this is fascinating. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you for having me. So I just want to help whoever this helps, whoever this inspires. Like, your life's not that bad. Because look at what I'm here, and so. I'm at the hospital, and this was really weird. So I came back different. I got a walk-in when I was having surgery, and my mom was terrified of me. She wouldn't look me in the eye. She wouldn't raise her voice to me. My father was terrified of me. I mean, I'm talking like look down like this. And I'm like, and I'm looking at it like, what's happening? Why are they acting like that with me?
Do you think it was the walk-ins illumination? Or do you think it was the guilt?
Okay, so I have another story a little bit later because it's completely insane. I'm going to write a book because people are just like, what? So the only reason I know it was a walk-in is because this happened again to me later with somebody else. Wow. And it was the same reaction. So my parents were terrified of me. No more abuse, no more beatings, no more sexual abuse. My father would stay far away from me.
Wow.
And I remember feeling so powerful. And at this time, I had just turned 13, the goddess number. And I believe it was a divine feminine aspect that came in, like a female goddess that came in. And he was terrified of me. And I got my period for the first time. So it was all like boom, 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 all together at the same time. And so the abuse happened in different ways now. Now it was mental and emotional. But it wasn't physical. and it wasn't sexual. So I was just like happy to have a break. So I'm like,
did it
I'll take
change? I really hate to even interrupt you,
No.
but I want to ask just a couple of questions. So did it change everything or only for you? Did it change for your sisters?
I don't know if it changed for them because from what I saw, nothing was happening to anybody.
Right.
So my hair color changed after the surgery. So they had to shave me completely bald. I had they sawed my skull open for the surgery. I had 35 staples from front to back because it was like a huge slice. And that was the brain surgery. And then, you know, you would think that if that happens to your child, like you're gonna, I mean, come on, if you even fall down the stairs, you take a week off and convalesce. My mom made me go back to school. And I still had the staples in my head. I had no hair. And for a girl, your hair is everything. And my hair used to be blonde before I fell. When I came back, it was dark brown. So a lot of things changed. My eye color changed and my hair color changed. When my hair started growing in, it started growing in dark brown. And I remember thinking, this isn't my hair. Where's my hair?
What color were your eyes?
They were light brown.
And
Now they're like super dark brown now, and my hair was dark brown. So my mom forces me to go to school. I was in, 7th, 8th grade, and I have to wear a wig to school. Talk about humiliation. And like, it kind of felt like my mom got off on it, like forcing me. And like, what am I going to say? I'm a kid. Even the doctor was telling her, she could take a year off. It's okay. She can afford it. Her grades are really good. Like, this is a big surgery. Like, we won't know maybe for months how it affected her really. And I had to keep going to tons of doctor's appointments because they weren't convinced that I was okay, because they're like, this doesn't happen. How? Like, how?
So I'm just curious, did you tell any of the doctors that you swallowed 1,000?
No.
They would have probably put you in the Smithsonian or something.
Well, my dad would have gone to jail because then they would have found out everything else. Because
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like if that happened, probably anytime after like the mid '80s, he'd have gone to jail. Period.
Oh yeah, because like so. Anyway, I'm living in this house. I'm tortured like in other ways now. So it really feels, looking back, like it was like the way you are in college, of like your courses change. Like my courses changed because now it was mental abuse and emotional abuse. And I in high school, I meet this boy in my geometry class, and I hadn't had a boyfriend yet. And he was my first boyfriend. I was 15. He was 16. And we start dating. And he's my boyfriend. And he treats me like a total queen. He buys me whatever I want. And I mean, this has never happened to me. Nobody's been nice to me. So to me, it's like, whoa, what's this? Like, you're being nice. You're a guy. And like, the only image of a man I have is my dad. And like, that's not much of an image. So to me, I'm thinking, wow, this is what love is. And so we date all throughout high school. At 18, I graduate. We both graduate. We move on to college. And I am determined to get the hell out of my parents' house. So I start scamming my father, and I write letters from my college. This is all that I doctored, that I made up. I made up stationery at school, and I would write letters to myself and mail them to myself, and then not get the mail, let my dad get the mail so that he would think it was like official. And I started sending letters before I graduated high school to plan ahead and say that my school was moving. It was a new campus, and now they were shutting down the downtown Chicago campus, and I had to go to this other campus far away in a suburb, far away from where we live. And so then that way he, like, planting the seed. I don't know how the hell I came up with this. I was a child, and he believed it. And I would have him send the tuition payments to that place, which was a P.O. box that I had. I would get them, cash them, and I was paying my own rent at my own apartment. I moved out, said I was going to live at the school, at the dorms, but really I had my own apartment. And he didn't know. So that was another part of the training. I became an excellent liar because my dad, my mom, they trained me. I knew I had to say certain things, look them dead in the eye, excellent actress, because then I wouldn't get beat. So I knew, I just copied them basically. And I convinced them that this was the truth. My dad did not like that I was leaving home. He wanted me home. And I left anyway. I moved in with this boyfriend that I've known since I was 15, who worshiped the ground I walked on. And I thought, I'm going to live with my best friend. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to get away from my horrendous family. And I won't be abused anymore because I'm leaving. I'm leaving this demonic realm that I've grown up in. And I'm going to like the real world with nice people, with somebody who loves me. So I move into this apartment. He starts beating the living crap out of me. He rapes me. He holds me down. He forces me. I get pregnant. And he makes me get an abortion because he says, you're not going to ruin my life. You're not trapping me. He didn't work. He couldn't find a job. Nobody would hire him. And I thought, oh, that's why. And I paid for everything. Well, really, my dad did, but he didn't know. And I worked full time. I went to school full time. And I bought all the groceries. I did all the cooking, all the cleaning. Every stitch of furniture in that place was mine. And for some reason, I felt obligated to stay there, even though I was getting my ass beat daily, like constantly, because he couldn't handle not having a job. But then he was abusing me. So when I had to go get the abortion, it changed me because I was already in love with that baby. Because I'm thinking like, oh, I'm a mother. Like I didn't even know about any of that. And I had nobody to talk to. So he made me like figure it out, basically figure it out. So I had to find a way to get money from my dad to get the abortion, but not tell him I was getting an abortion. So I had to be really nice to him. He gave me the money. I told him it was for books. He gave it to me. I went and I got the abortion and something changed after. And I decided, I can't blame him completely for it. I realized, because I can look down timelines. So I looked down the timeline and I saw, if I have this baby, I am tied to him forever. If I have this baby, he's going to do to this baby what he does to me. And I rather stop it now than let it come in. So I closed the door on the baby and I said, you can't come in because this is not a good place for you. So I made the decision of like, this is what I have to do for you. And so I went and I had the abortion and nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody. I couldn't talk to my mom because then they would know. They would know. And I was so ashamed of what I had put myself in because I thought in the attempt of leaving a shitty situation, I got a worse one. Because I wasn't getting beat at home anymore. I wasn't getting, sexually abused anymore. And here I am with a stranger doing the same thing to me. So I felt really stupid and I didn't know what to do. And so I never had a relationship with my mom. So like, how am I I don't want to tell her now. Like, I don't trust her. So honestly, I thought she was just going to be like, too bad. Because she knew what was happening at home with my dad and she didn't do anything. So I'm thinking I have to endure it. Like, I just have to tough it out. So something changed though, because I thought that I could do this, have the abortion and like be okay mentally. And I remember the nurse saying, you're going to be okay right now. It's painful, but it's going to hit you later. Like 8 hours later. And I remember thinking, no, I feel fine. It feels like period cramps. I'm okay. And when I got home to my mom's house, to my parents' house, and I just lost it because the hormones come down. So it's kind of like a postpartum depression on steroids. So I completely lost it. And I felt so guilty. I felt dirty. I felt like a murderer. And I hated him because I felt like he made me do this. Like, you changed me. And like, you didn't give me a choice, because why would I bring a baby into that? You know, I'm not going to do that. Like, I didn't get to pick, but like, I can pick for it and I can say no, you know? So it was an impossible situation. I had the abortion, and then something changed in my mind, because I remember before when I was with him and I would go lock the door at night before we went to sleep. I remember thinking, what the fuck am I locking the door for? There's nothing out there that can do worse to me than in here. So really, let's just sleep at the subway station, because I mean, what difference does it make? And I mean, yes, it's a big, scary city, whatever. Not to me. I felt right at home outside at midnight, because I felt completely untouchable, because nothing out there would do anything to me just privately in here. So I go back, I leave my parents' house, I go back to the apartment, and he's leaving for the weekend. I lied to him and telling him, because every weekend we would go home to our parents' house. And because the story was, we're staying at the dorms. And so he went to home, and I said I was going home. I said, oh, I'm going later. My dad's going to pick me up. So I planned another suicide. And I bought all kinds of different sleeping pills, and I bought alcohol. And I didn't know how I knew that was the right concoction to like take you out. But I'm talking like I had 4 different kinds. They were full bottles. And that's a lot of bottles. There's probably like 60 pills or so in each bottle. And they were different kinds. And apparently that's really bad to mix different kinds. So I ate them all again. And I remember I put a mattress on the floor in the living room, and I unlocked the door because I don't even know why I did that. So I unlocked the door. I laid down on the mattress in the living room. I took all the pills, and I just passed out. I blacked out. And I vaguely, kind of like when you're drowsy and someone comes in and you don't know if you're dreaming or if you're awake, I see him come back, and he forgot his jacket. And he's like, Sylvia, and he's trying to like wake me up, and he can't. So he calls 911, but like the coward that he is, he runs out because he doesn't want them to think it was him, even though he's beating the crap out of me. And the cops were constantly at our apartment. The neighbors were always calling the cops, but I would never say anything because I was terrified of him. He would tell me, if you ever tell the cops, if you ever get me in trouble, I'm going to set fire to your parents' house and your little sisters are going to die. And I believed him. I thought, oh my God, he is going to do that because look at what he does to me. So it's true. And for some reason, I just didn't care anymore. And I took the pills. I died again. And they revived me again at the hospital. I come 2 days later. I don't even know what day it is. And they had pumped me full of charcoal. And when they pump you full of charcoal, everything is black, like between your fingers, your nails, your tongue, your eyes, everything. You're just seeping charcoal. And I remember just laying there, and like all the sheets were white, but they were smudged with the charcoal coming from me. And I was just like, what is this? And like, I didn't even know where I was or how I got there. And a requirement to leave after you've done that is you have to have a psych eval. And so I had to have a full-blown psych eval. They wanted to know. And man, I was like the best liar. I lied my ass off, and very convincing, looking them straight in the eye, telling them what they wanted to hear, because I could read her thoughts. So I knew what she wanted to hear. And I'm like, this, and this, whatever. Okay, yeah, I'm fine. I'm struggling in school. I failed my final, blah, 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 just making up a bunch of crap. I had straight A's. I wasn't failing anything. And they let me go. Well, I go home, and I'm new now. I got another walk-in, and I think that walk-in was male. It was like a god, a male god walk-in. It was different. I was 18 years old. And I come home and he's there at the apartment, and he won't look at me. And he towers over me, 6 feet tall. I'm 5'2". He just towered over me. I start beating the shit out of him. I just start wailing on him, and I did not care. I said, go ahead and kill me. What are you going to do? Kill me? I don't care. You're coming with me. I'm taking you with me. Like, we're going to die together. So I was just going off on him, and he got really scared, and he just left. He just ran away, and he left. And he goes to another room, and he's like, we don't talk. And I'm seething with anger, just rage, so much rage. I didn't even know where it was coming from, but I was a completely different animal. And in my mind, I decided I'm getting out of here. And I don't know why that had never occurred to me that I could leave. And I'm like, I can leave. I can just leave. It's mine. All of it is mine. I can burn it if I want to. And so, very calculating, very cunning. At this time, I'm pre-law, political science in school because my dad wants me to be a lawyer. And I work at a law firm with $1 million attorneys. And I tell them what's happening with him. And I'm so ashamed and embarrassed. And I hate having to tell them. And these are rich white men, but they come to my defense. And they say, we're going to help you. Get out of there. Leave. Whatever you need, we're here. And so they showed me how I can defend myself in court, get an order of protection, an emergency order of protection. I had to go to court. So when he was at school, they told me what to do. I called the apartment complex and said, hey, he routinely, beats me up, and all the walls in here have holes in them from him. And like everything's broken. You can keep the security deposit, but I would call the cops if I were you because I'm not going to be here. I'm moving out, and I don't know what he's going to do. He's very violent. And they know because the cops are always there. And so they had Chicago police standing by, and I left with my sister. She helped me come get my stuff. I leave. He comes home to an empty apartment and the cops. I leave. Then he's served with the order of protection. I have to go to court. I'm trembling, white-knuckling it. I have to tell all these grown-ups, all these white grown-ups, my personal business, and I have to recount story after story of the things that he's done. And he's there. He's in the room. He's right next to me, like at the next table, and I'm just terrified. And like Morgan said, speak the truth even if your voice shakes. So I had to tell them, and thank God the judge was so angry at him, and he had a daughter. And I mean, he's a human being, even if he doesn't have a daughter. He goes off on him, and he says, if you even think about her, I'm going to throw your ass in jail for the rest of your life. And so he terrifies him, and he started stalking me at work. He started stalking me everywhere. At school, I had to leave school. I had to transfer schools. And my coworkers, thank God, these amazing men that I worked with, came to my aid, and they would bodyguard me. They would walk me to the train station. They would walk me to school. All downtown Chicago, everywhere I went, they were my bodyguards. They surrounded me. They would not let him talk to me. It was like Secret Service. And everywhere I went for 6 months, 8 months, they were my shadow.